Do you know what's the difference between a regular church and a cathedral? In this episode of Catechism for Kids, we explore the cathedral, the bishop's special church, and the heart of a diocese. Hey there, children. It's me again. Have you ever been to a big, beautiful church that was made out of stone? And have you ever seen an even bigger, more beautiful church that was also made out of stone? Well, if you have, then you might be wondering what's the difference between them. Now, the biggest difference between them is that the first one was probably your local parish church, where you and your family regularly attend Mass. But the second one, that was a cathedral. And a cathedral is the special church of the bishop of a diocese. Now, all the people who live in that area and go to that cathedral are usually part of many different parishes, but they are all united under one bishop. So why is it called a cathedral? Well, the word cathedral actually comes from the Greek word cathedra, which simply means chair. We call it a cathedra because it's the bishop's chair. Why a chair, you might ask? Well, back in the early days of Christianity, a bishop was a teacher, so he would sit in his cathedra, or chair, while he taught the other priests and deacons. And today, the cathedral is still the place where the bishop teaches and leads all the priests and people of his diocese. So that's why it's called the cathedral. But who's the bishop? Well, the bishop is like the captain of the ship of the church for that particular area. And that area is called the diocese. All the people in the diocese are like the crew of the ship, and all the churches in the diocese are like the little lifeboats that are scattered around the big ship. And just like a captain guides his ship, the bishop guides all the Catholics in his diocese. He takes care of them, teaches them, and helps them on their journey to heaven. And just like a captain needs a special boat to sail around in, a bishop needs a special church to work out of. That's why every diocese has a cathedral. It's the bishop's special church, and it's usually the biggest and most beautiful church in the whole area. And when you enter the cathedral, you might notice that it's full of beautiful things, like stained glass windows, big organs, and lots of statues and pictures of saints and important people from the history of that church. And all these beautiful things aren't just for decoration. They teach us about our faith and help us to pray. For example, those stained glass windows usually tell stories about Jesus and the saints. And all those beautiful colors help us to meditate and reflect on God and His Word. And that big organ, it's used to play music that inspires us to pray and worship God. And those statues of saints, they remind us of the great cloud of witnesses who have already gone to heaven and are now praying for us. That's why cathedrals are usually big, because they're not just for one little flock of sheep. They're for the entire diocese, the entire flock of Christ in that area. It's the house of the bishop and the place where he teaches and guides all the priests and people who belong to him. In a way, you could say that every cathedral is like a little Vatican inside the diocese. In fact, when you go to visit the Pope in Vatican City, you might notice that his apartment is right above the cathedral that he has in Rome. So next time you see a big, beautiful cathedral, remember, it's not just a building made out of stone, but it's alive with the presence of God and the spirit of the bishop, who guides all the faithful there. So, do you have a cathedral near you? You know what it's called? And have you ever been inside? Tell me all about it in the comments below. And hey, don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss an episode. God bless you.